Hi guys, welcome back to another video. It's been a while. I have to put this out there. This is my fourth time recording this. I keep running into some problem. If you didn't see my last video, I posted a vlog of me in Spain meeting my boyfriend for the first time officially. So if you haven't watched it, I'll put a card up here. You should go watch that. If you have watched it, then you're in luck because I have been getting requested to share how we met. So I'm gonna kind of briefly give you guys the rundown of how we met and then share a little bit about just what stood out differently with him than any other guy, because I had my first breakup 2 years ago, and since then I've had plenty of guys that were interested in me, but only 2 guys I actually reciprocated talking to. I never dated any of them, but I would give them the opportunity to talk with me and get to try and get to know them to see if they were people I wanted to date for the purpose of marriage. And so none of them did. Daniel is the only one that has, and so obviously for that to be the case, he's different. So we're just gonna jump right into it. That's him right now. We met via social media. Little backstory: he actually had been following me on TikTok and Instagram for quite a while, and I knew that because I was notified when he followed me, and I never followed him back. One, because I don't follow people that I don't know unless they contribute something to my life, because I did not know him. I was just kind of and I looked on his social media and I remember thinking, oh, he's super cute, he's super talented, but I was in a different mindset then, and I was kind of sick of guys. I was kind of exhausted, and I was feeling discouraged that so many Christian guys would claim to be of God, but they weren't really men of God. And so I kind of just assumed he would be the same, and I was like, I'm not even gonna, because I know what's gonna happen if I follow him back. He's gonna think that I'm into him, because a lot of guys had the tendency of, they'd follow me and they would expect me to follow them back, because for them that was their way of saying I'm into you, and if I didn't follow them back, they would unfollow me. Fast forward, I had just basically gotten done telling this guy that I wasn't interested in talking anymore, that I valued myself way too much to keep myself in his drama and whatnot. That's a whole different story. So anyways, I had just gotten done doing that again, and I was kind of irritated and discouraged, and again I was like, God, does he exist? Does the man that I've been praying for exist? The man that you gave me a dream about, does he exist? And Daniel had slid into my DMs. I posted a video of my TikTok on my Instagram story, and he just sent a message, and he just said super cute or so cute. And I remember I was just I don't want to ignore him because I don't want to seem rude. So I just messaged back and I was just thank you. And I think a day went by, and I just was I kept thinking about him, and I was like, what if he is different though? What if he's not like the other guys? And so I was just like, you know what the heck? What's the worst that can happen? If he turns out like all the other guys, I'll just unfollow him and I'll block him. But I was like, it can't hurt anything. And so I followed him back, and I noticed that he didn't DM me or anything, and so I saw his story and I just sent an emoji. And then the next day he messaged me again regarding my music, and he just started a genuine conversation about music. He started asking me about it, and then we talked about music, we talked about God, and then he asked if I spoke Spanish, because at the time I did not make the correlation. I just thought he was somebody that moved to Spain. I did not know that he was fluent in Spanish and did not know English. So I didn't know this at this point. I'm just talking and doing all the abbreviations, thinking he knows what all of this means. And I just remember our conversation from the beginning being very natural, very genuine, and very godly. And that stood out to me because every other guy I had interacted with always from the get-go wanted to talk about my body. Or there was always something that was just oof, that doesn't sit right with me. We have instincts. And then we have discernment. You know, I always prayed, and one of the most important things to me about the relationship I was looking for, and I told God, I was like, I don't just want any relationship. I want a relationship that is of you, that glorifies you, and that pleases you. And I said, and for me to know that, God, I want there to be a peace that only you can give me. And from day one of talking and meeting Daniel, I only felt peace. There was never a moment where I was like, okay, he shouldn't say that to me. Or why is he saying that to me? What's his agenda? You know, he made his intentions clear. He's like, I like you, and I date for marriage, and I want to pursue you. And, you know, he made that clear. And no other guy had done that before. And meanwhile, through all of this, you know, we're FaceTiming and we're texting, and we have to translate everything because neither of us share the same language, which has been challenging, but it's also been beautiful in a different way, because it challenges us to be more intentional with the words that we say, especially in conflict. All of these things, I was keeping my mom in the loop, because, you know, it's easy when you're into somebody, or you think you're into somebody, to get, you know, just emotional. And so she always tends to be, you know, the one that makes sure that what I'm seeing is correct, and it's not just my emotions puffing him up. And after our second call, our FaceTime call, I went into my mom's bedroom, and my brother was there, and this was a shock to them, because I'm not the kind of person that does this. I was like, I'm going to marry that man. And my mom was like, wow, okay. Like I said, I had been keeping her up to date with, like, you know, the big important conversations we had, like, about convictions, about our intentions, our desires for the future. Like, he came to me with the questions. He didn't waste time. He wasn't playing games, and that stood out to me. He was like, you know, what do you see yourself doing for God in the future? Where do you want to be? Like, you know, we had these conversations that some couples don't have until a year later. We were already having within the first month, because it was important to us. But there was so many things that he confided in me, that he prayed for, or he wanted in a future wife, that God had already answered through me. And there was things that I had prayed for specifically, or things that my mom would only say to me in private, that he said to me, that he didn't know. I never told him. And he would say word for word what my mom had said to me all these years of my life, and no one else had ever said them to me. And I knew in that moment that was confirmation that, like, if he is seeing what my mom has been praying for, he's confirming it right here and right now. And he doesn't even know that my mom prayed that, or that my mom spoke that over my life when I was, you know, young. And he's saying that now to me word for word. I'm like, that is God. Like, no one else can do that. There's been so many moments like that within the 3 months of us knowing each other. You know, just very intentional, mature conversations. And that revealed to me his heart, his intentions, his values, the things that were his convictions and what were important to him. Those were revealed to me from the very beginning, and that is what stood out to me, his heart, his character. And I knew that the peace that I had been feeling when I talked to him, I didn't fear him having a spirit of lust. I didn't fear him, you know, only being into me for my body, because he didn't make it about that. He made it about me. Like, I want to get to know you, Samantha. I want to get to know what you value. I want to get to know your heart, your intentions. And he made that clear from day one. And so I never feared all these other fears that I had with other guys. Like, oh, he's saying this, that's not right, that doesn't make me feel comfortable. You know, is he into me? Is he not into me? One minute he's flirting with me, the next he's like not talking to me. The games, the mind games, the emotional games. I didn't have that with him. Not ever. And I still don't. And that is something that I truly hadn't experienced before. You know, with Daniel, it's been godly. It's been pure. It's been real. And it's really hard to explain the peace of it, because it really only does come from God. Meanwhile, all this time, we're talking about how we're going to see each other, and, you know, he can't come until he gets a visa. We didn't know how long that was going to be. You know, I'd gotten my passport and put everything in, but, you know, between work and then the cost of travel, we still didn't really know when I'd be able to go and see him. And my mom was like, you know what, Samantha, I'm going to pray. And when I feel like God's giving us the green light and everything lines up right for us, we will go. She's like, but you cannot nag me about it, because the more you nag about it, the more frustrated I'm going to be, because I don't have any more answers about this than you do. So you just need to pray, and you just need to be patient. And when my mom says like stuff like that, you leave it. She's like, if you need to vent, that's fine, but don't come and ask me, you know, can I see him in 2 months? She's like, because I don't know. And so that's what I did. I just left it. I said, God, it's in your hands. And a couple weeks later, you know, our cruise that we were supposed to go on, her and I together, it got messed up again, and they didn't book us like they were supposed to. So our cruise got canceled. And she comes, and, you know, I was thinking in my head, oh, like, it'd be so nice, since our cruise is canceled, we could just use that time to go see him. But I didn't say it to her, because I didn't want her to get mad at me or frustrated. So I was just like, God, whatever your will is, let it be. And sure enough, she came to me after Sunday morning service, and she was like, ask Daniel if this week of September will be okay, and if he can take off work, because we're not going to fly there, and then he's working. And so I asked him, and he's like, yeah, I'll make it happen. And so I'm in my room, and she knocks on my door, and I'm like, yeah, and she's like, I booked the flights. I was like, you what? She's like, I booked the flights. I'm like, the flights to where? And she's like, to Spain. And I go, I'm like, no, you're joking. And she's like, no. And I started crying, and I was like, because it felt so like, you know, when you're in that moment of like questioning, it feels so much longer. But in reality, 3 months, I mean, it feels like forever, and it is a long time versus like if he lived here in the States. But we thought it was gonna take longer to see each other. We thought maybe like a year, and here it was 3 months in, and I got to see him. And his birthday wish was for me to be with him on his birthday, and he just said that as in, you know, like he wished that would happen, but obviously we didn't think it would. And sure enough, I was with him on his birthday, and I got to celebrate it with him, and that was just amazing, and the greatest gift that both of us could ask for, because it was a late birthday present for me. My birthday was just the end of August. You know, there were so many things that I was nervous about. Like, I was nervous meeting him for the first time. Like, I already felt like I knew him, but, you know, you still never know. And I was nervous to meet his family, because his family speaks Spanish and no English, and I was really nervous about that. But the moment I met him, it felt like I'd already known them. It was just, you know, solidifying things more. Like, I already knew. My mom already knew. And then I met his family on his birthday, and I was very nervous about that. But they are so sweet and so kind. They're so welcoming. And, like, it all just went away when I met them. All the fear, all the worry, it went away. And my mom and his mom, they talked, and they had a conversation about how she felt towards me and how my mom felt toward Daniel, and our families are just in such agreement about everything. It's so beautiful to see, and it's exactly what I prayed for. You know, I wanted God's blessing. I want God's hand on my relationship with Daniel, and it has been since day one. And God has answered so many prayers, little things I would go to God about and be like, God, I don't really know how to talk about this, because like I'm scared. And it's not that it was anything bad. It was just like what if he's expecting me to move to Spain? I've never felt called to do that. Like, what if, you know, and I would just be like, God, but whatever your will is, like, let it be, and give me the words to say, help me to communicate what I'm feeling to him and all that. And like the next day, he just brought up and he made the comment that he'd be happy living here. And I asked him, so you want to move to America? And he was like, yes, I want to be where you are. And then, you know, we had a conversation about God, and he shared, like, you know, calling he's had on his life and how he feels like God is leading him to America, and just other prayers that he had prayed that God has specifically answered, and that I was one of those prayers. I never want to take the place of you in his life. Like, I love him and I love his heart for you. And no matter how close I become to him, I don't ever want to take your place. Like, you are first and I'm here. And so when it comes to these things, like, I want to first and foremost give it to you and give you the chance to guide us and lead us. And I don't want to react off of my emotions. You know, I want you to be our counselor, our direction, you know, a lamp unto our feet and a light unto our path. And so, you know, God, if you want me to bring it to him, then give me the words to say and help me to do it with the right attitude. But if you want to deal with it, then you deal with him privately in his prayer closet, in his time with you, and you instruct him and you guide him. One specifically that I prayed about regarding like our process when he comes to America and stuff like that, and I'm not going to share details and all that, at least not right now. But and then when I was in Spain, we sat down and I asked him, and the same exact prayer that I had prayed to God, that I was like, Lord, this is what I feel is best for us, but I don't really know how to convey that to him yet, because I don't want, you know, I don't want to like ever come across like controlling and all that. I was like, but, you know, so help me to give, you know, help me to share what I'm feeling, but like to do it in a right way. And sure enough, though, we sat down and I didn't even have to share what I was feeling, because the next thing that came out of his mouth was the same exact prayer that I prayed to God. And I remember just thinking in my head, like, yep, another reason as to why he's different, and this relationship is of God. And then there was also a moment in Spain where he talked to my mom and asked her for like her blessing, and it was such a beautiful moment. I wanted to cry in that moment because it was just so like, you know, for so long I prayed for this guy, and so many times I wondered if he was there. And I will tell you something, there was a moment where I said to God, Lord, I do not feel like my husband is in Virginia, and right now I don't even feel like my husband is in America. I said that to God one time, and I was like, God, if you gotta bring him from somewhere else, then do it. I just want I want what you know is best for me. I don't want to make the choice just because I'm impatient, or because I think I know better, or because I'm afraid of being alone. It's like, I trust you, and what do you know? He brought a man from Spain. Like, how crazy. I mean, it's not crazy when you think about God, because God can do anything and all things, but, you know, I say all of this because I want this to be an encouragement to you, because I've been there. And I know that right now you could look at me and think, oh, well, she has it easy because now she has a boyfriend. But I promise you, I've gone through the same things. I've gone through scrolling through Instagram, and you see couples getting married, couples getting pregnant, couples getting together. And you're bombarded with it every single day of your life. And you're like, where's mine? But I promise you, if you can just wait on God, what you think you want, God has that and so much more. So much more. He has more than you could ever imagine. And, you know, for me, I've always wanted to travel, but I never had someone to travel with. My family, you know, we don't really travel. And then I don't really have a friend that I would trust enough to travel with. And so I would say to myself, well, I think at this point the only chance I'm going to get to travel is when I get married. When I first started talking to Daniel, he made the remark to me, he's like, you're going to come to Spain one day, I just know it. And I was like, he's just being sweet. He's like, you're going to love it, just trust me. And looking back, I realized that there was something there that he was speaking that I did not know, as if he knew something that I did not know. And obviously now I know, because he felt from God early on our relationship. Me, it took me a little bit more time, which I think is usually how it works with us girls. But he was speaking something by faith that I had no idea. And I've gone to Spain, and I'm going back to Spain in November, and I'm going to be with him and his family for 2 weeks. I want to encourage you, whether you're a man watching this or you're a woman, wait on God. Just wait on him. Do not let the distractions of this world and the fear of being alone and the desire to be with someone overcome you to the point where you settle and you compromise. Do not do it. And just to put it in here, there's things that I wrote down. I have like this prayer journal on my iPad, and I write down prayers and things that, so I have like a list of things that I would pray for my future husband, prayers that I prayed, qualities that I was looking for in a future husband, and literally, I don't know if you can see it, but Daniel meets every single one. But these were things that I looked for to date, and then I would pay even more attention to and further to know if, like, oh, okay, I want to marry that man. There's these things. So, conviction. Does he line up with the Word of God? Does the choices he makes, does the things that separates him line up from the Word of God? Is he separated, in this world but not of it? His character. Is he a man of God? Does he represent God? Patterns. What is his style, lifestyle, his daily choices? What does he pursue on a consistent basis? Chemistry. Are we attracted to each other? Do we get along well? Humor. And we do. Purpose. What does his heart desire? And what is his pursuit? And he has such a heart for God. He has a heart for people. And I know Daniel's watching this now. So, he knows how I feel. I tell him all the time. I tell him every day. And then lastly, peace, which is what I already spoke about. I wanted peace of God. Not just like, oh, I like this guy. I wanted to feel confident in my spirit and be like, he is a man of God. I don't fear what the other fear that I have with other guys, because they would bring that fear because of here's the thing. When you're praying, pray for wisdom and pray for discernment. Because then when you're talking to somebody, you can discern the spirits that are attached to them. And the amount of guys that had a spirit of lust attached to them, I would pick it up just like that. Because God, spidey senses or whatever, it would just go like that. And, at first I would try to be like, okay, that's a red flag, but let me put a pin in it and let me come back to it and see how much it manifested itself. But I had one guy make a remark to me, and I flat out asked him, I was like, do you have a porn problem? Do you have a pornography problem? And he did not deny it. So I was like, well, I take that as a yes. And I said, I value myself way too much. I'm not going to deal with that. I wish you the best of luck. Goodbye. I have been there. I have done that. I have been in a position where a guy was talking to me and I did not know he had a girlfriend because he did not want me to know, and I found out via someone else. Like, you don't know. You don't do that. As someone who's representing God, you don't have that kind of behavior. And so if you're praying for discernment and wisdom, and then when you feel that discernment, you actually let God guide you, he's going to take care of you. And he did that with me for every single guy. With Daniel, it did not take long because I knew in my spirit, and I still know in my thing. It's a beautiful thing when you let God do what God wants to do. And I know he's going to continue to do what he wants to do as long as Daniel and I put ourselves in the position to allow him to do so. So, anyways, that's really all there is to our story. It's just a big God thing, and there's so much more I could talk about, but my camera is going to run out of memory again pretty soon. So, if you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, then follow me. If you have any questions and you want to ask me privately, feel free to DM me. If you want any advice, maybe you're talking to somebody and you're not sure how to handle this or what to think of it, please reach out. Like, it's not always easy, and it is nice to have someone that knows what you're going through and just to kind of help guide you. Like I said, because your emotions sometimes can cloud your judgment. So I've been there, I've done that. It's better to get out sooner rather than later, in my honest opinion. And then just wait on God. Wait on God. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you guys to see more of him. And eventually he'll have English down pat, and we'll do like a cute sit down video, like Q&A, and you guys can ask us questions and we'll answer. But as of right now, that's not really in the cards because of the language difference. But, yeah. So thank you guys, those who have just given so much love and encouragement about our relationship already. Thank you. It's really sweet to have people rejoicing in my blessing with me. And Daniel, I love you. Thank you for your support and all that you do for me. And thank you for being in my life. And yeah, and God bless. I love you all. Thank you for your support, your encouragement, your love. And if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. And yeah, I will see you in my next video.